I'm pleased to invite on stage our panel moderator, Guantse Chubinidze, Senior Architect and Urban Specialist at Art Studio Project. She has contributed to a diverse range of public and private projects, always focused on sustainable and future-oriented cities. Thank you, Guantse.
Well, that's what we all do, I guess. Thank you, Guantse, for the introduction, and I'm happy to take the floor now. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on how cities and architecture shape human experience. Today we are joined by a group of diverse architects and urbanists from the UK, Lebanon, and Georgia. And I'd like to ask those panelists on the stage. Harry Dobbs, the director of Harry Dobbs Design, founder of HDD in London. His works, he has delivered award-winning projects across the world. He has also, his design works has been installed in different cultural and design institutions across the globe as well. And he advised the UK government and the Prime Minister's office on urban design issues, as well as cultural industries, creative industries. Marcelina Zielinska, the group board director at Chapman & Taylor. Marcelina is an architect and urban designer with 18 years of experience at Chapman Taylor. She is also the member of the Royal Institute of British Architects and as well as Society of Arts, British Society of Arts. She recently joined the group of board directors at Chapman Taylor. Otar Sulaberidze, the lead architect and the urban specialist at Art Studio Project with over 18 years of experience. Just choose whatever you wish. He's got 18 years of experience as urbanist, architect, and also in sustainable development. He's done a lot. His work spans from public to private projects, as also major hotel designs, and in building, residential sector, his notable work is Citizen Complex. Ali Rashid, the CEO of La Maison Rashid, and as well a lecturer at Caucasus University. As a CEO, he has delivered a lot of projects across the Europe and Middle East. From Beirut originally, he holds a PhD from Manchester and specialized in architectural education and urban planning. He's as well a certified Autodesk Gravity instructor. So now that we are all on board, let's begin the discussion. And Marcelina, I'd like to give the floor to you now. So the very first question is, sorry, I have to sometimes read. Cities have always been more than just buildings. They affect us in a lot of ways. So from your perspective, what is the strongest way in which cities influence human experience today?
Thank you, Guantse. Well, cities are fascinating. As an architect and urban designer, I always felt I was leaning more towards cities and urban planning because it's so powerful. And the way we experience cities is not as simple as architecture. They're actually very linear. We look at cities through a journey. So in addition to the three dimensions that architecture has, there's always this time dimension because cities are big, you experience them in time, there are lots of emotions, there are lots of atmospheres, moods, districts you pass through. And the way to affect it is by looking at the quality, I would say, of those linkages. And there's one big word which I call the wider connectivity, which combines everything. It starts from the quality of the connection. So the public realm around us, what is on the pavement, what is actually that we see when we walk. Is there greenery around? Are there benches to sit on? Is the lighting proper? What is our impression when we walk? And then also what frames our work. So that comes back to potentially architecture. If we are in the city center, is there a good active edge, by which we mean the commercial buildings that open up to the public? They're inviting us, they create activities, and also they provide safety at night, because you have this glaring shop fronts which actually make places secure. But also, maybe there is no architecture. Maybe we have beautiful green links and open spaces, which are also hugely important. It is important to have a mixture of spaces and access to greenery, which is good for well-being, etc. So again, that comes back to good planning of the city. So what is the length of these connections? I'm trying to stay with connections because they have so many dimensions. So one, as I said, the quality, and then the length of the link, which raises the debate about 15 minutes walk city. As you already probably all are aware of this, important of this 15 minutes-ish for everything to be accessible. So we don't need to travel hours for our key needs. And then also the uses, the attractiveness of the uses nearby. But then when we look at bigger cities, we cannot avoid travel. So yes, it would be great to have everything on the doorstep, but maybe my best friend lives, miles away, so I need to get there. Or maybe a fantastic show is in a different cinema to mine. Whatever it is, I need to get there quickly, nicely, and nothing would be working better for the city than smart transport, which actually provides a lot of means of transport. It provides transport segregation, like underground, overground, cable cars here in Georgia. We have both in London. And in London, specifically, it's all connected into one smart system, which makes it so easy. You just tap every gate with, with the credit card you have, and you can get anywhere. So not to be too long, and to sum up, it is about connections, the quality of them, the length of them, accessibility, the experience, and also about the spaces itself. Do they connect people? Because thing to always bear in mind is that people come to the cities not for the cities. People come to cities for people.
That's so... Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, now it's possible. So, thank you, Marcelina. Ali, we never really discussed, or we never touched the topic of how do we define human experience in the context of city life that is drastically different from any other kind of life that a person in a country can have. Could you define it from your perspective?
Yeah. First of all, hello everyone. I would like to start by something that every architect knows, that what is a good design of, or every urban designer. So we design for a safer place, and we design a comfortable city, but people always feel safe and people feel comfortable. So they always have this feeling. So if I want to shape what is a human experience, I will say that a human experience is the narration that every architect and urban designer should have in his project as a storytelling to embed all these emotions and feelings and experience and stories, because cities are not just built with stones and metals and the glass. They are built with emotion, with feeling. They are built with memories. So, and the most important, they are built with the stories. I have been in Georgia since 2 years, and I have a lot of stories in Georgia, in every place. When I arrived to Tbilisi, I was walking in the old Tbilisi, and I said, I feel home. So I haven't been into the master plan of Tbilisi, or I haven't checked the wall. I said that I feel home. I was walking and I felt safe, even though there is no policeman every 2 meters. But I was able to walk in the city at 2 a.m. without feeling that I'm in danger. So a human experience is our narration. So as a designer, I do narrate, I do have a storytelling This is the human experience, and it should be shaped with feeling that I will offer to the user or people who are using this place.
So basically, what made you think that you were home, it was mainly safety
Yes.
that the city offered.
Yes, because this city is designed for safety, but I haven't seen the master plan, or I haven't talked to the architect or the
You haven't
urbanist.
checked the documents of
Yes.
the city, but still it gives you the
But
feeling.
I felt safe, so feeling is a key point in our human experience. And it's our role as architect or urbanist or designer to embed feelings in our narration so we can have this perfect human experience in our project.
Thank you, Ali. Harry. Now the next question, I'm going to direct it to you. So public space often reflects the life in the city, the quality of life in the city. So how do you think the streets, squares, urban gardens or parks, what's the importance that they carry in shaping our experiences daily?
Hello, everyone. And thank you, Gavanta, for the question. I think, firstly, I sort of would, in answer to that, I'd echo what Marcelina was saying in terms of public space is a cultural and social infrastructure that connects the whole city. It's a connective layer that brings the whole city together. And in that sense, it has this deep strategic role within a city. However, at the other side, it's something that is central to our a fundamental experience of a city. We can choose to go into a building, we can choose to go into a private space, but the public space, we don't get that choice. It's fundamental to our cities. And in that sense, it needs to be built up from the bottom up in many senses. It's built up from the experience. As Ali's saying, in a sense, if we only think of it as a strategic infrastructure, we lose the essence of a soulful city, the identity and the softness of a city that makes a city special. And I think those intimate and personal experiences within public space are navigated not only by landscape, but also by all the, we have the sort of landscape plane, but we also have the space between buildings and the landscape of all the urban furnishings, all the elements of the city that sit between those two areas. And for example, often public space is seen as primarily experiential or primarily connectivity, but it also has a strong role to be iconic in many ways as well. We have iconic spaces and we have iconic elements in cities. For example, the red telephone box in London, I think, is the second icon in the world for Great Britain after an iconic building, which is the Houses of Parliament. This is an object that we see everywhere. There are millions of them throughout the UK, and we interact with them. They provide embedded in them a value of civic, a set of civic values that represent the UK in that sense. So it has all these layers of connectivity, experience, and often iconography, which provide that core aspect of the city that's important.
I would like to ask a sub-question, kind of. Ali, you said that safety is something that makes you feel like home. What would you say about parks? Like sometimes they are huge, sometimes not really well infrastructured or dark. Do they bring safety in London, for example?
Just in terms, obviously, safety in a public space is negotiated. That's the other aspect. It's a shared space. We don't have the same control as privacy, and with that goes many things. There's a political aspect, obviously, of it being partly municipal, partly civic, and partly around the users, the visitor, the community, and such like. And that goes to what you're touching on, which is safety is the most visceral aspect of that negotiation. There are two ways of looking at it. both of which have valid, and it's usually somewhere in between where you have to balance it. If you design public spaces purely around safety and security, and there's a whole industry doing this, it can end up feeling like a prison, and it makes the sense of safety terrible quite often, even though it might make it technically safer. On the other hand, actually, I think really important, if you make public spaces core to the culture of a place, embedded with the communities that live there, the ability for the community to self-police becomes probably the best way of having safety in public spaces.
Great answer, great insight. Otar, architecture is not only about function, it also communicates cultural values. And I'd like you to touch the topic upon how can architects balance global trends, global design trends within the city, such as within a city that orients on culture and heritage, and the city is Tbilisi. I'd like to hear your point.
Yeah. Hello, first of all, and really quickly, I would like to say thank you to the organizers and all of you because it's a great opportunity for us for local practices to meet you, to have really chance of meeting a lot of top international architects and to hear about the artificial intelligence and all the development. I think it's very important, and for the younger generation as well. And regarding the question, so not to lose the question itself, so I think that it should be really the other way around, and I would agree with what Ali is saying in sense that emotional factor is very important. How you can connect with the plant space, with the design space, and in that sense. And it's like even the thing what we try to do in our practice, so to find out the local, let's say, elements, local layers, local elements of how the people act in different cases, in different, and it has a lot of different aspects, like the scale is very important, of course the design, how big should we use this public space, not to be too big, too large, or not to be too small, etc. And it's, I think it's about searching those contexts in the local and then try to apply on the general scale, on the general, let's say, on the general approach. That's.
Would you say it would be possible for a city like Tbilisi to take its local cultural, architectural part, like design and take it outside the country? Would the world be accepting it? Europe, for example.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that it's about like bringing outside something specific. It can be about the attitude, about the approach, of course, because in the first part of this today's conference, we saw a lot about old Tbilisi in the pictures and the Soviet also heritage, and I think there is a lot of interesting aspects, and also again Ali mentioned about walking in the city, and yeah, it can be about the approach and the different types of organizational places what Tbilisi can offer, because I really think that it has a lot to offer from the cultural point of view.
Thank you, Otar. Every one of you have international experience. How would you compare the experience that you've got in different cities to each other on a human experience level? Ali?
First of all, I'm coming from Beirut, and Beirut is a city layered with a lot of eras, so Roman, Byzantine, we have Ottoman, so we have a lot of layers. But if you see in between this layer, you will be able to read how people shaped the city, not only the city shaped people. So you can see that Beirut has passed through a lot, through wars, explosion, crisis. Even though you go to Beirut today and you see that people are adapting so fast because they have this feeling towards Beirut. And this feeling were always in Beirut in between the layers. So as my colleague said, Otar, that we should not only see the layer of urban, we should see in between this layer. And that's why the experience of being from a city like Beirut is totally amazing, because you can read a lot of things in between the wall of houses and in between the street of the city. And I can compare it a little bit to Tbilisi, because that's why I felt home, because also Tbilisi is a resilient and powerful city, and that's why maybe I felt home from the first day being here.
That's a great answer. Actually, I'm quite sure that a lot of people could find a lot of relevances between Beirut and Tbilisi, because this city has also been through a lot, and there are sub-layers that create the sense of the city itself for people. How about London? Would you, Marcelina, compare your experience to any other cities, for example, where you've lived?
Well, London is uncomparable. If you're bored of London, you're bored of life, as Oscar Wilde said. And the reason I live in London, because I've chosen to live in London. I'm Polish of origin, and after graduation, I just decided to go there and live there, because the city is fascinating. It has so many dimensions, layers, it's so huge. Well, I knew I wouldn't be able to walk London throughout my lifetime, and I will never get bored. And that's what I'm doing now, like fascinatingly, walking from one place to another just to investigate the links. And it has fascinating links. You can follow the Thames almost in an unbroken path. It's 20, 30 kilometers walk. And you also have different characters. So starting from Far East, where we have, the sea and the Thames opens to it, it's very wild. The architecture is post-industrial. The mood is quite melancholic, sentimental. We have tall buildings, glazed buildings, touching the water. But then when we move towards west, it becomes more and more of a village, and also the Thames gets smaller. So there's this gradual change of character. And of course, it's also a checker in terms of, poor and rich areas. So there is no rule of where the rich people live. Obviously, the center is very well invested, but we have very nice spaces and posh spaces outside of London. So I could go on for hours, but I think London is uncomparable, and mostly because of this beautiful public realm and the fact that the city invests in it, and it's very well planned and organized. Nothing is random in London in terms of the main spaces. It's all designed to lead you through the city as a pedestrian. So yeah.
I appreciate your devotion for the city that you live in. Harry, when comparing those different cities you have experienced living in, would you say that everything is, we have some universal lessons, or everything is context dependent in different cities?
I think that touches on a really important dynamic that we currently have now, where obviously cities are hugely contextual. They come out of cultures, they come out of environments, they come out of landscapes. They're hugely contextual. And therefore they have huge difference by their very nature. I think, however, one of the things we're increasingly aware of is that one of the biggest differences we currently see in cities nowadays is pace, right? And I think we see some cities are stable. London's a good example. Its pace actually isn't that fast anymore. It had a massive pace in the turn of the century in the 1800s. It was one of the first European cities that went past 1 million as it industrialized. And However, now you have different cities that are running at that pace, and you realize that cities with pace have a fundamental difference of cities without pace, and they have similar challenges. They have unique contexts and all that, etc. But they have similar challenges, and that's, I think, some of the fundamental of what we're talking about today, of how within pace and scale we can still achieve human experience in a soulful way. I think it doesn't seem such a challenge to find soulful experience in maybe some of these traditional cities like London. They've matured. They have rich infrastructures of that. I think in places like Riyadh, like Doha, cities in China that have grown at incredible pace, the challenge of embedding soulful human experience is the challenge of our time. And I think this is what's really central to today's conversation.
Thank you. We've surfaced some present challenges. However, I really want to hear from you. How do you see the future in Ali? Cities are changing rapidly. We have migration processes, we have climate pressure, we have technological development processes. So how do you see cities still remain human-centered under those conditions?
I think, in my opinion, the main challenge that we are suffering from today is how we stay human-centered. As I said, city is not built from just material. It's built with emotions and feeling. And with all my respect to my colleague who talked about AI and how much AI is important and technology, all of these things will facilitate a lot our work, but they will never be able to detect our feelings, to work in emotions. They can predict behavior, but they cannot integrate feelings, storytelling, narrative that usually each architect is specialized with. So the thing, as my colleague Harry said, that if I will go to AI and I will design a city that is safe, it could be a prison, because it's the ideal city with the standardization, with the AI-driven design, data-driven design. It could be a prison. It could not be a safe place, but it could be just something that will let people feel that they are imprisoned in between boxes or in between walls. So in my opinion, the main challenge is to stay human-centered and not to rely on AI in our design, but to work with AI as an assistant tool to help us do whatever we want to do.
Thank you. Ota is talking about future. How do you see in 2-3 decades how the cities are gonna evolve, and if the human experience is still gonna be the priority? Because we all have seen the movies, like a lot of movies where it's a sci-fi, it's a future, no one cares about human experience, only the, limited amount of society has still possibility to experience the cities. So how do you see the future, and what should architecture and urban planning, what part should they hold?
Yeah, thank you. So it's a tough question, I think. It's impossible to predict, of course, what will happen in 5 decades or in 10 decades. But again, so if you compare what was happening a century before, for example, in Tbilisi during Soviet time, there were already some standardization of the planning of the blocks of the regions and rayons, but now, as we see and as we're talking, how those blocks have been, let's say, humanized, and what have human factor brought into them, and how everything evolved in this big planned spaces. Now you can see that this scale has shaped the people there live, and even the same you can say, for example, the most a visible example can be like city like Barcelona, for example, which was planned like this famous Cerda plan that all the blocks have to be like the same. And when you walk there and you see like, yes, they are the same from the outside, but if you go inside these blocks, like crazy things are happening.
So the feeling is not the same as it used to be.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, and again, I would agree with what Ali is saying, that I don't think that you can really plan the future or plan something ahead, and even with the current pace, like it's the planning, let's say, period gets less and less. I think if in the previous times you need to plan for 10 or 20 years, now you need to plan like maximum for one year or even less, because then COVID will come or something will come and change
and
everything.
You have to expect unexpected maybe.
And yeah, we need to use the new tools, of course. We don't need to like say no to them, but yeah, we need to see together what will be the future. So.
Let's see together. Harry, does Harry Dobbs Design have any kind of future-oriented designs or future-oriented views in the sense of course, human-based experience?
Yes, I think in urban design, we're always conscious that there's the sort of top-down side to urban design and city design, which is strategic and deeply strategic at a very high level sometimes. Sometimes things you don't even expect, like we worked on the regeneration of the city centre of Doha, and obviously there were loads of reasons why you do that, to sort of create a new urban centre for the Qatari capital. But actually one of the reasons that was not so explicit but deeply held by the client, the Qatari royal family and government, was it was a strategy of security, actually. They wanted to make sure that people, this put Qatar on the map. This was a cultural expression in the form of urbanism that put Qatar on the map, that meant that in the future people wouldn't, if Qatar ever got attacked or bombed, people would go, actually, hang on a moment, I know where Qatar is, that shouldn't happen. Before that, they were worried that people didn't know where Qatar was, and there was a worry that that might lead to a worse security situation, for example. And obviously, we've seen only in the last 3 weeks that that might have been a successful strategy. So these deep embedded strategies on one level drive what a city is for, and I think that's a deep strategic question that you drive in urbanism. The other side is obviously you're working from the bottom up, where you go, how are you going to make that a human experience at the human level? How are people going to feel that? How's that going to convert into a daily life? And I think what's amazing about the technologies that we're now being offered, parametrics, but also more recently AI, is it's shortening the distance between these top-down strategies and these bottom-up agendas and human aspects in terms of us as designers. We can connect these two things far quicker and far more with far more agility. Beforehand, we needed so many layers between those two areas of people, of bureaucrats, of many design heads. As that reduces, the agility of connecting those two things seamlessly becomes far more available to us. I mean, in a way that's super exciting as a designer. And I think people like Tim Fu earlier referred to some of these aspects and the excitement that has. However, he also warned, I noticed, it does have a challenge. In urbanism, especially so, in the sense that our urban spaces will become the expression of who we are as societies. If we have amazing tools to convert those expressions very quickly into physical form, obviously we have to be very careful and very aware of what our societies are, because they will get embedded into our physical urban fabrics very, very quickly nowadays.
Well, let's see how it goes after 20, 30 years. We can maybe sit all together, everyone together, and discuss if we were right or wrong and if we made all possible. So Ali, if you could summarize in one sentence or just share your sentence to our audience, what makes the city truly livable for you?
I can say people, their experience, their memories, their stories, because even if you are a foreigner from this city and you enter this city, you will be able to see, even if you are not hearing these stories, you will be able to see in their faces, in their act, and everything, and this is what makes a city livable, not a cold city.
Great answer. Thank you to our panelists and thank you to the audience. I'd like to finish it with my own sentence that the way we shape the cities, eventually they shape us. So let's just try our best to shape in the best way.